YouTube fam? I am back as promised and trying to slowly reinvent myself back into this YouTube thing. So I figured the timing was perfect. It's the weekend. Chainz literally just dropped his album yesterday. I listened to it. I loved it. What else can I say? I also do feel like I'm a little out of touch because I had no idea he was dropping the album yesterday. Only reason why I found out he was dropping it was really because of YouTube. Like in the morning times, I like to try to listen to maybe like a little podcast or something in the morning before work, or even sometimes during work, so I can kind of keep something going in the background, I guess. It just makes my day go by a lot smoother. And I saw him on the Breakfast Club, and then I saw him again on the 85 South podcast, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're here to discuss the album." And I was like, "Album?" And yeah, he had an album, and I had no idea. But to be fair, I'm like that because I don't really follow a lot of people on their social medias. I'm quite sure he probably hinted that he was gonna drop it on maybe Instagram, and I don't really follow a lot of artists on IG, so I was caught off guard by this album. But let's talk about it, you guys. He dropped the album yesterday. He got 15 tracks, and it is entitled "So Help Me God." Another artist to drop during this quarantine, interesting 2020 year. So let's get into it. First of all, I just want to go out there and say that I've been listening to Chainz since I was in high school. Not quite. I think he was going by Titty Boy back then, but Duff Bad Boys is pretty much the first time I think a lot of us were introduced to Chainz, and then he, transitioned and started doing the solo thing and just kind of took off. With Chainz has always been a pretty big deal. So help me God. Now, first of all, I will say some of these features caught me a little off guard, just a little bit. We all know about Moneymaker. That was the single that he dropped. I think he debuted it when he was having his versus battle with Rick Ross. And I think we all love that song, right? If you're from the South or you went to a HBCU, know anything about that, there's no reason for you to dislike that song. It's a solid song, kind of has, that drum, those horns in the background. It's sampled as well. It's a classic Southern rap song. He just did a wonderful job composing that. And of course, who else but Lil Wayne on the feature. Lil Wayne has been murdering features for well over 10 years now and showing no sign of stopping. So he has a song called Save Me featuring NBA Youngboy. Now that one caught me off guard because I don't really listen to NBA Youngboy too much. I will say that I don't think he's a bad rapper, but I just don't listen to him. And I was even kind of surprised to hear Chainz allude that he was actually one of his favorite younger artists. So I mean, he had a solid verse. He rapped on beat, which is something that I feel like a lot of guys are failing to do now. I won't even say they're failing to do it. I literally don't think people are trying. But NBA Youngboy is not bad. Can't Go For That featuring Ty Dolla $ign and Lil Duval. Not gonna lie to you, that's probably my favorite song on the whole album because it just kind of has this smooth, mellow vibe. And it also has like a nice little low bass line in it. And, like I said, Chainz is kind of like one of those rappers. His ad-libs, his double, triple entendres, everything he says just make you kind of double back. He's that one rapper who you'll go, wait, what did he just say? Run that back. And you have to listen to it. So he can flow on any song. And he's shown that he can do that. Track number 6, Feel Away with Kanye West and Brent. I think his name is pronounced Fayez, maybe. I don't know. I've heard of Brent before. I know he's worked with Chainz before on a remix. And then Kanye West had a pretty solid verse. The only reason why I can't sometimes give Kanye his props is because I think for the most part, we all kind of know or at least feel like Kanye doesn't really write his raps. And I know you may be thinking that may or may not be a big deal, but if you're a hip hop head, you just have so much more appreciation for an artist who actually writes his or her raps. And I'm one of those people. Like, if you can actually write your raps, that still kind of means something to me. But whoever wrote that verse with Kanye, whether it was him or somebody else, that was a great verse. I just don't want to give all the credit to Kanye because it was it was a really good verse. But if he did write that, kudos to him or whoever wrote that for him. He got a track with Mulatto. I don't really listen to a lot of female hip hop artists because, to be honest, I'm not biased or anything, but I do believe none of them are really coming close to Nicki Minaj. Just to be honest, I think no one's touching Nicki Minaj, and I think they can all agree to that as well. And then somebody else, just a little side note, I think Cash Doll is probably one of the most underrated rappers, female rappers. Just put that out there. Like, I think people, when you get to her and a Meg, I think Cash Doll's the better rapper. And you may feel some type of way about that, but that's just my opinion. Anywho, got a song with Kevin Gates. Haven't heard from Kevin Gates in a while. I know Kevin Gates is kind of on his journey. You know, he's very spiritual now, but I haven't really heard much of anything from Kevin Gates. And to be honest, I haven't really liked him a whole lot since high school as well, sadly. He kind of fell off a little bit to me. But he had a solid verse as well. Got a song with Chief, Keef, and Lil Uzi. It's been a solid year for Lil Uzi though, because he just had something come out of Future that I'm honestly probably not gonna listen to. And Chief Keef, I never really listened to Chief Keef either. These Chicago rappers, they have a really different style. It's just more so about energy with Chicago rappers. But I will say, I think Chief Keef did a pretty solid job on this song. Like, usually I listen to somebody I don't listen to, and then I'll be like, oh man, this guy messed up the song. But I didn't have any complaints. I think everyone on that song did a phenomenal job. And then, of course, the Rick Ross collab. Rick Ross is a really solid artist. In my opinion, Ross is one of those guys who's a better feature artist as opposed to his own songs, like his whole album. Like, one whole solid Rick Ross album can kind of be a lot for me. So I love to hear his features. And he had a guy named Schoolie on that track. So really solid features on this album. I feel like it was kind of drawn out, and I wasn't expecting that. So that was pretty impressive. 15 albums, and like I said, it was a solid 2 Chainz album. I was listening to it, and it kind of sounds like a typical 2 Chainz album, which is not bad because 2 Chainz generally makes pretty good albums. Now, I didn't like his last album he released. I think it was like either Rapper Play Ball or something like that. Wasn't really feeling that album a whole lot. It just wasn't, it seemed a little different. So I'm happy he released this one, and this is kind of what I can vibe with. I can vibe with this 2 Chainz album. It's a solid listen to, really smooth listening. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not one of those albums where you gotta like kind of maybe skip something. Like, you can listen to this all the way through, and that's something that's, once again, I appreciate. I do wish, and I learned 2 things for this. Listening to this album and watching his interviews. One, we are probably never gonna get a Jay-Z verse with 2 Chainz. It's kind of sad because I feel like 2 Chainz is one of the most underrated rappers out there, and we all know, you know, Jay-Z is a great, and Jay-Z is just so particular about who he works with. It's like you will probably never get a Jay-Z verse, and I hate that because as a hip-hop fan, I feel like we're all being deprived of that. And 2 Chainz alluded to it as well. He was like, I'm not going to ask Jay-Z for a verse anymore. But I kind of wish he would keep on asking. Just keep on. Just bug him until he gives you a verse, bro. And that's something else. I didn't know that this man, 2 Chainz, had his own shoe collection. He has a collection with Versace. And I looked at his shoes, and they are kind of dope. And I want some. They're $900. I was like, wow, that's for him to have a deal with Versace. And then they actually give this man the signature shoe. That's a pretty big thing. So overall, you guys, you know, this is a pretty solid album. I love 2 Chainz. I think he's super underrated. He's been talking about it too, like, give me my flowers while I'm here. He doesn't receive a lot of credit. I agree with that. He's a legend. He's for sure a Southern legend, but when you talk about hip hop, a lot of these other rappers can't compete with him at all. And this album's gonna go over a lot of people's heads. Like, I don't think his album's gonna receive as much attention as it should. This is something else I think could possibly be. I was gonna say it could be album of the year. I don't know how true that may be, but it's definitely competitive. I think it's a solid body of work. I think all this does is kind of raise the ceiling for 2 Chainz, and he's kind of been floating. So that's all I got to say about this one, you guys. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it. Who else are you looking forward to releasing soon? If there are some other people I should check out, drop a comment for that as well. I may check them out, and we'll just go from there. As always, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for more videos coming to you one of these days. As always, be safe. God bless.